Wheeling and Lake Erie's Rook sub traverses some of the most scenic landscape on the entire railroad. Beginning in Brewster, Ohio, the railroad's headquarters, the line snakes its way through rich, rural farm country in eastern Ohio, before entering a more mountainous terrain in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. On July 15, 2025, the weather was too perfect to pass up a day of rail fanning along the Wheeling Main Line. I started the day out at Pittsburgh Junction with train 591, the Hopedale local, bringing a cut of stone hoppers down from Waco siding. They will shove the stone cars to the end of track at milepost 188 on the Wheeling's Valley sub to the right of the camera. From there, the Valley sub is rail banked with several washouts and track removals between milepost 188 and Dillonvale. After the last car clears the switch, the conductor throws it for the Valley sub, and the crew prepares to shove the train 5 miles back to the end of track.
Hey, 6991. Switch is thrown for Valley. Bolt on point. Back it up. You're cleared 20. Okay, we're direct.
5, no defect. Temperature 9-1, detector out.
After 591 cleared, I packed up and moved another 45 minutes to the west and set up in the village of Somerdale. I waited here at Somerdale for 3 hours before anything showed up. The train that I was in search for, however, was not running. That, of course, being an as-needed stone train that ran between Brewster and Martins Ferry, Ohio. The only other train that would be running that night on this end of the system would be Brewster to Hopedale train 214, which is what I would chase between here and Hopedale. I initially was going to chase the train from Brewster, however a bridge on State Rte 212 near Tuscarawas Valley High School was out, therefore I couldn't go any further. Leading tonight's 214 was an SD40T-2 number 5413 and an SD40-2 number 6996. 5413, along with its sister units 5412 and 5391, are three of the Wheeling tunnel motors that still retain their as-delivered Rio Grande paint scheme. Chasing trains on this portion of the Rook sub is kind of tough. While the rails carry a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit and the road for the most part is 55, that doesn't account for getting behind a slow driver. Thankfully, they turned off towards Leesville Lake, and I continued on. Even though I put enough of a gap between myself and the train, I would not have pulled off here at Crowder Road and State Rte 212 to shoot the train passing a farm field. However, because he had to slow down for a work zone between New Cumberland East Switch and Sherrodsville, that allowed me to do just that. After I turned the truck around, I set up and waited for about 10 more minutes before the train showed up. And while 10 minutes usually isn't a long time to wait for a train, it sure felt like a long time when the temperature was 93 degrees outside. At least that's what was recorded by the Sherrodsville defect detector.
Milepost 162.3, speed 35, no defect. Repeat, no defect. Total axle 296, temperature 93, length 4647, detector out.
Form A, 75.5, 10 mile an hour is voided at 1233, 1233 BA over.
Alright, correct with the one deletion and the addition of the Form B 5390, which does not affect you. You can show ACRDOB 196, good, verified. 1745, 1745 AMK over.
Alright, with the one deletion, DOB 196 to go one time verified at 1745, 1745 AMK DWS over.
Check power line for me.
Roger, our leader's going to be the Wheeling 5413, 5413, followed by the Wheeling 6996, 6996. We're going to be 5 lows, 66 empties, looking to go Bowerson and Jewett over.
5413 eastbound proceed Bowerson to Jewett and Maine. Is that correct? Ready to copy?
That's correct, ready to copy.
Track line number 622, 622 to the WE 5413, 5413 ECASD. Date July 15, 15, 2025, 2025. Mark box 2, TWO, proceed from Bowerson to Jewett on and main track. Mark box 1616, track bulletins in effect, 196, 196, and a Form B 5390, 5390, which does not affect you. Track 1 has 2 TWO boxes marked, box number 2, TWO 1616, over.
Erie back on track, number 622, 622, address to Wheeling 5413, 5413 East EASD. Today's date, July 15, 15, 2025, 2025. Mark box 2, TWO, proceed from Bowerson to Jewett on PM main track. Mark box 1616, track hold in effect for 196, 196, and Form B 5390, 5390. That does not affect our movement. This track one has 2 TWO boxes marked there, boxes 2, TWO, and 1616.
Good read on track number 622 to the Wheeling 5413 East, box proceed Bowerson to Jewett, Pam, Maine. 2 boxes 2 and 16, okay, 1747, 1747 AMK, over.
I copy, good, we're back on track number 622, address to Wheeling 5413 East, box 2 from Bowerson to Jewett on the Pam, Maine. 2 boxes 2 and 16, okay to 1747. 1747, dispatchers AMK, copied by DWS, over.
DWS, track 622.
We're talking on our side, thank you.
Never mind, I got it. Just touch up.
Chasing trains on this portion of the line is relatively easy. However, there are some curveballs that are thrown in, such as this construction zone up ahead that you've heard me mention in a previous video on the State Route 151 bridge, which caused me about a 5-minute delay and allows the train to catch up. But let's listen in as they get permission back onto home rails.
5413 is better. On Central Line 1266, this one's track 269, 269, subdivision Rook, 715, 20, 25, 5413, 5413 at Jewett. Circle line 1, track 266, 266 is canceled. Circle line 2 over at East Direction, Jewett, MD 11, 111. Circle 10, TSR 292, 292. Circle 12, 4 item, circle 1, 2, 10, 12, over. Track number 269, 269, subdivision is Rook, 715, 2025, just link 5413, 5413 at Jewett. Line 1, track number 266, 266 is canceled. Circle 2 over in the east direction, Jewett, MK 111, 111 on the main. Circle 10, TSR is 292, 292, and circle 12, 4 to circle length 1, 2, 10, 12 over. 269, 269, effective 1810, 181 knot hours. 269, some effective is 1810, 181 knot hours. Correct. Track 1, 270, 27 knot, exposure Rook. 715, 2025, lane 5413, 5413 at MPK 111, 111. Line 4, Android 2 MPK 111, 111, Hopedale crossover main track. Line 7 to MPK 111, 111, Hopedale crossover, make all movements restricted speed, once occupied by train, men, or equipment. Circle 10, TSR 292, 292. Circle 12, 4 item, circle 47, 10, 12, over. Track number 270, 27 on from business, Rook 715, 2025, just like 5413, 5413, MK 111, 111. Circle 4 riders between MK 111, 111, Hopedale crossover on the main. Circle line 7 between MK 111, 111, Hopedale crossover, make all movements at restricted speed, limits occupied by train, men, or equipment. Circle 10, TSR is 292, 292, and circle 12, 4 to circle line 47, 10, 12. 270, 1811, 181 hours. 270, sound effective 1811, 181 hours. Spot up, there's a couple of 50 seconds, 10-12 eastbound to move up into the pocket later on. I copy, I'm going to cover 56, so get the pocket, walking down, going in the pocket. 12, far off when you're ready.
So, after hearing this, I decided on a few different locations of where I was going to set up. Usually I set up at Caddis Street so that I can get ahead of the train to get another shot. However, this time around I wanted to actually shoot the entire train. So it was either I pull off up here at Custer Crossing, or I go to the Brightside parking lot at the Brightside Gas and Tavern and wait for the train there. Which is ultimately what I decided to do. After the train cleared Jewett, I got ahead of them again at Hopedale crossover and waited for them to do a pull-by and back-end move as they shoved their long train of empty tanks into the Mark West facility through the Hannah East switch. After the conductor throws the manual switches and the engineer keys up the radio remote switch for Hannah East, the crew then begins to shove their empty train into the yard tracks. They would later then switch out the power for the 591, however I'd be unable to stick around for that as temps were in the 90s and I had had enough of the heat for one day. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.